Well, the wheat's been through it quite a bit this season so far. Kind of have a wide range. Obviously here in Stillwater, things look a lot better than as we get west, especially up to the Panhandle or down in towards Altus. For the most part, lacking a lot of wheat pasture this year. We just didn't get the growth, mostly obviously because of the moisture. So for the most part, the wheat did get a stand until we get out there, you know, where we've gone over 100 days without a significant rain. We still have some wheat that's still in the ground. It's got a very thin stand to it right now, so those acres are going to be obviously looked at pretty hard. But as we get closer to north central Oklahoma, or that kind of 81 corridor, Highway 81, there is some wheat pasture to be found, but for the most part it is less than typical. So the wheat right now, just looking at some like NAS, the USDA, Ag Service, just comparing it to last year where we usually have about 50% of our acres grazed at this point in time in the year. I think it's down to 40% or 41%, so we're down 10 points off that. I believe at the beginning of the month we're still in the 30s, so we're seeing more cattle turned out in some areas to get that number up, but for the most part what I've heard as we get further northwest, what acres we were having grazed, they've already been removed because of the lack of the forage, and some stands where we turned out a little too soon. We thinned out some stands because we never got a really good root system developed on the wheat. So the stalkers did thin out the stands by pulling those plants up. But like I said, the biggest thing is having enough pasture right now to withstand those. And I would assume most of them that are grazing right now, the stalking rates are quite a bit lighter than what we typically run early spring. At this point, we're having a real big decision-making trial and go. Guys are determining, is it worth taking to grain? Obviously, the wheat price is looking pretty favorable. And then if we are taking it to grain, when should we pull off these cattle, especially with the heavily stressed crop that we have right now? Should we pull out a little bit sooner to give that wheat a little break to get some regrowth on it since we never got the fall growth? And then how much money do they want to put into that crop? How much fertilizer do we want to top dress? How much nitrogen? And then can we afford to maybe put some other crop protection products out there like a herbicide or insecticide? For the most part, luckily we haven't seen a lot of on the pathogen sides. Haven't really seen any rust or powdery mildew or any septoria or anything like that. Insects have been pretty light for the most part. A few cases where we had some mites come in or some aphids. From what I've seen, maybe a few bird cherry-oat aphids, even saw some out here. Still below those thresholds, which I think are about maybe 30 per stem. So we're still holding off on that. The weeds, they're stressed just like the crop. And so typically we want to get out there as soon as we can. Once we start getting some green up to it, I'd say wait for a couple rains before we start doing those herbicide applications, just because I want that weed actively growing to get good control. And then some of our products, some of our traded products like the coaxium system using the aggressor herbicide that's out there for those traded wheat varieties, we don't want that wheat any more stressed than it has to be, because we might see an increase in crop injury. And even stuff we've been spraying for decades, like Finesse, we've seen instances where if we spray around a freezing event or very cold temperatures, we've seen crop injury with products that we're used to, like Finesse. And so I want the crop to rebound, I want the weeds to rebound, so I'm pushing off those herbicide applications. For one, make sure we have a crop to go after that can support that kind of investment. And also, I'd rather focus on getting that nitrogen out now. I know it's still early. We still have some time if we got a lot of acres to get over. There are some products that might buy you a couple weeks on some of those top dress applications. For the most part, like I said, I'd focus on top dressing first, and then we'll look at those other inputs. And then going back to the safety of the crop, with the wheat stressed so much as it is, as we get out further west, I really hesitate to use flat fan nozzles. Guys are wanting to do 2-in-1 with the herbicide and that top dress. That flat fan with the UAN, urea ammonium nitrate, we're going to have some crop injury with that. So I'd rather have separate applications. Go out there, do your top dress, and then once we get some growth on it, come back and get our herbicide out there, insecticide if needed, and stuff like that. So the price of fertilizer is up, the price of wheat's up. So you gotta really kind of put the pencil to it. See what your budgets are looking like, but I want to say it's still under about $1, 90 cents to $1 per pound of nitrogen, and a bushel of wheat's what, $7-8 right now. So for $2 of nitrogen, you're still making money on that investment even with application, as long as we get the rain to support that crop.